Production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
The school system, charter schools, and more tonight on Behind the Headlines. I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian. Thanks for joining us. I am joined tonight by Dr. Bobby White, founder, CEO of Fraser Community Schools. Thanks for being here again.
Thanks for having me.
Michael Whaley is a county commissioner, head of the education committee for the county, and also involved in education in your day job, which we'll talk about. But thank you for being here.
Sure, thank you.
Along with Bill Dries, reporter with the Daily Memphian. So we had scheduled this show. I've been trying to schedule this show for a while to talk about some of the things going on with the school system, with charter schools. Obviously, coronavirus is a big story internationally, locally. We'll start a little bit and talk about that just as it impacts the schools. As we tape this Thursday morning, Shelby County Schools has extended vacation an extra week, I believe, right? So kids will be out of school for 2 weeks. You run a group of charter schools, Bobby, but you follow the guidelines of SCS, right? So your schools will be out for now 2 weeks. What are you doing right now dealing with that? I mean, how do you deal with it?
So we've been preparing for this, like everyone else. We mirror SCS through the ASD. Of course, the ASD is our early A. We mirror SCS. And the communication is being sent out to our parents, and we're going to do everything we can to ensure the safety of the students. Like that's what's important.
Yeah. Do you have any sense of whether that will go longer than 2 weeks? I mean, there's some
absolutely no idea.
No, okay.
And I don't think anyone else has any idea either, right?
You plan for that possibility. I mean, you look at colleges around the country are closing or they're going online only. Do you guys? I mean, I assume you have a high school, middle school, elementary school. Is there any talk of online learning the way colleges are kind of shifting?
So we definitely have had those conversations, and we'd love to do that. But our resources won't afford us the opportunity to have every student with a device to take home. And so, like, trying to work our way around that is our challenge. But we definitely have had the conversations with the partners that support us with some of our academic programs.
Commissioner Whaley, I mean, again, the county commission doesn't control the schools, but obviously a big funder, money that goes to the schools. So what are you all doing? Let's stay specific to the schools right now in terms of monitoring, supporting, et cetera, the school system.
Well, our health department is very much, I think, on top of making sure that we're communicating with the schools. And I know Dr. Househalter is in constant communication with the schools. She's the head of the health department. And is in constant communication with Dr. Ray at the school system and the other municipal districts, because certainly we have many students in the schools and want to make sure that we're doing everything we can from a county health perspective to be able to assist the schools. And it's something we've done in the past, certainly continue to do. One thing I would like to say, just to sort of help for those that are listening, is that we do have a new website. The county has a new website that'll help kind of aggregate a lot of information on coronavirus. So it's shelbytnhealth.com/coronavirus. So if people want to go there, that's updated constantly to be able to get the latest information about.
Can you say it again?
It's shelbytnhealth.com/coronavirus.
Yeah, and that's not just specific to school.
No, it's not. It's for anyone. So anyone listening that would like to have more information.
Before I bring Bill in, you have constituents, you have people. Do you have people calling you and saying or emailing you saying, why aren't you doing this? Why didn't you close schools fast? I mean, are you feeling the pressure from constituents of questions and anxiety?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I hear is just wanting to get all the information. I think there with so many different sources of news and information from all levels, it's sometimes hard, I think, to decipher what's true and what's not. And I think the reality is that there's still a lot of unknowns, but there are things that we do know can help both contain and prevent the spread of the virus. And those are things that, we try in every platform we can to share, which include things like washing hands, social distancing, avoiding large gatherings. Not to be alarmist, but it's just one of those things that'll help prevent outbreak of any kind.
Yeah. All right, let's bring Bill in.
Bobby, are there ways, obviously even normally when there's summer vacation or spring break, you're able to be in touch with the parents of the children, and I take it that will continue with this too.
It will.
To let them know, the latest developments with the school, and also to hear from them about how they're doing as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been in communication this morning. You have to recognize that we share siblings with Shelby County. And so when the announcement was made with Dr. Ray, then, our phones lit up, with our parents saying, hey, well, what are we going to do, right? And so we'd already been prepared for that. We have a really good relationship with Shelby County, and there was communication, and we were prepared to have those conversations with our parents so that they would really recognize that we're on top of things.
And Michael, the health department has been, since 2016, has really made a large transition to much more of a public health agency than perhaps it had been before. Are you satisfied with that direction now, about 2 years into the transition, or 4 years into the transition actually, and what you've seen in the handling of this?
Sure. Well, I mean, I feel like, public health is one of the main functions of county government, along with education. And I think, Dr. Haushalter is very much very good about keeping us in the loop about what's happening, not just with this particular situation, but I think being aware of anything that is happening in our county is really important. Being aware of what is happening at the state and federal level. And so we feel very confident in her leadership. The public health department is something that we have decided to expand and grow. There's a new facility that is being built right now ahead of schedule that will help serve the public in this area. So, obviously things are changing by the second, but I feel very confident in her leadership, our county's leadership, to be able to ensure that we do everything we can to first and foremost inform about what's happening, but also to be able to treat and prevent and treat any sort of additional spread of this particular infection.
A conversation that comes up, and we segue away from coronavirus, but is the schools, as you said, I mean, schools are the center of people's lives, and often, their communities, if it's a neighborhood school, it's also a form of, on some sort of pragmatic level, a form of childcare. And that conversation comes up during, ice storms and any kind of school closure. This is 2 weeks where parents now, they were going to have to deal with spring break, but now they're going to have to deal with an extra week. And the, I wouldn't say likelihood, but the real prospect that could be extended depending on where things go. How do you as a school, in terms of communicating and sort of being a center of people's lives, deal with parents, working parents who don't have another child care source? And also segue into, you all probably provide a fair amount of meals and free lunches to people.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting that is exactly some of the conversations that I was having this morning. Of course, there's only going to be one additional day tomorrow, and then spring break.
Right.
But after spring break, I've already reached out to say, are we going to be able to provide some form of lunch for the students if they were to come to our schools? I don't think I'm not sure how that's going to play itself out. I'm very hopeful about that. In regards to the child care, I mean, I think we have to understand the enormity of what we have going on. And if we can't meet as a group for school, then childcare is not something that we would be able to provide. But meals individually for our students in our community, I think that's something that we definitely are going to try to see if we will be able to take care of.
And to clarify and to kind of segue into what we originally want to talk about was where the school system is and charter schools. You run and founded a group of charter schools. You had founded a charter school before going into educational consulting. We talk a little bit about consulting isn't really fair, but we'll talk about what you do. Define for people who don't understand it what a charter school is. Because we talk, and even now we've talked about SCS, which is the Shelby County Schools. We've talked about the ASD, which is its own entity, and then independent charter schools, but they are sort of married at the hip to the county. So how do you, in 15 seconds, define a charter school? You can have
publicly funded, independently operated schools.
How do you, the importance of a charter school? I mean, you founded one.
Sure.
Why was that so important to you? You had been a teacher, Teach for America, and then ultimately founded a school.
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one, what Bobby said around being a public school. I mean, first and foremost, it is a public school, and I think the really big advantage is the autonomy to really be able to do what works and to be able to look out and see what other successful schools around the country and the world are doing, and have the freedom and flexibility to be able to do that. Think along with that, which I think is a fair trade-off, is you have the same accountability that's expected of any other school to be able to achieve outcomes, but gives you that ability to, kind of give a little more freedom in terms of your instructional program.
Bill.
Yeah. All right. The aspect of charter schools, I think some people have the impression, and there's actually been the accusation made that the charter schools come in and cherry pick, take the best students, the ones that are the easiest to handle. And that hasn't been the atmosphere for charter schools at all here. You were principal when we first met at Westside Middle School.
Yes, sir.
You're at MLK Prep now, what used to be Frazier High School. You're in the same community you were in when you were part of Memphis City Schools.
Yes. I think it's like we have to really make sure we understand the difference though. Mm-hmm. Let's be clear. Traditional New Start charters are different from the turnaround charters that have only been made possible by the ASD. The ASD took over existing schools and gave them to charter operators. Thus, we took on the zoned enrolled students that were at those schools. I just happened to take over the former Frazier High School, of which I'm an alum. I changed the name to MLK College Prep because I thought it was just time for us to rebrand it. And the other schools that I run, they are zoned enrolled schools. The traditional charters, not so much. And I won't speak on those as much because I won't say that they cherry pick, but they definitely are not just the zoned enrolled kids, and there is an application process and a lottery and all those things, right? Mm-hmm. And so it is markedly different, and I want to make sure we're clear on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Michael, your experience with charter schools and that perception about charter schools.
About the
Cherry
picking.
Yeah,
the students.
so that is something that is often heard. My experience has been, charter schools are open to anyone who wants to come, and so it's done by lottery application, and so there's no selection of, I will just pick this student and deny this student. That by law you are required to accept every student that applies, and I can only speak from the school that I founded, and our process is exactly that. So I can't say what others do, but if you're following both the state law, it says that you've got to be open enrollment, accept who applies, and serve those students who come through your doors. And if you have more applications than you have spots available, you hold a lottery to determine at random who is able to attend the school.
When you hear, I think for some people, when you hear application, they go to college, and college it tends to be a more merit-based, or it's a selective process. So when you say application, and I sometimes think that when I hear about people are applying to go to the charter school, that in what you're saying is more of sort of a formality of we got to get their name, address, etc.
Right.
It's not a this looks better, this looks worse, and
That's
this
right.
person's going to get in and this person's not.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But I remember, I can't remember who it was. It was somebody involved with education reform in Memphis who talked about how it may not be cherry picking, but there is a kind of, to get into a charter school means the parent is that much more engaged to go that extra mile, check out the school, get the application in. May not sound like a lot, but that adds up. And that is
Absolutely.
if not a criticism, a reality of charter schools, that there's a bit of a cream because it's more engaged parents. That's not to fault those parents, and the same thing I've heard about vouchers is that even if it is a pure lottery, it means a parent or a family is that much more engaged to get that extra help to get the voucher, and that so it does sort of I don't know, it separates people out.
Yeah, I mean, I would say then, to that, like, well, then let's get parents more engaged, right? I mean, that ought to be what we do. Why should we say parents should not be engaged? I think it's more about, this is a step in the right direction to build parent engagement. I think parents ought to be aware of how their schools are doing and what their options are. And the more we can do, as educators, those in the space, to engage parents, organize parents to, expect more for their kids and, kind of get away from this ultimately like gap of opportunity that exists between different sets of students, then I think that's a good thing. So more knowledge is better.
That's a great answer. The reality of it is this. Until the neighborhood school is of quality, charters are not really choice. Like, we toss around choice all of the time.
Yeah.
Right? It's only true choice when the neighborhood school is good enough to where the parents opt out because the charter provides a program that's better suited for their child. Parents opt out of the neighborhood school currently because they just want to get to a safer and an environment where they think that their kids are just going to be taught at a basic level, right? And so one of the reasons why I got into the work was because of the way Chris Barbick and the ASD brought it. We were going to take over, or we were going to charter existing neighborhood schools, build their capacity to be great, and then the traditional charters, the folks with the applications where parents would come, then that would really be choice. Until then, charters are just a safe house for people who feel like the neighborhood school is not doing a good enough job.
Yeah. Bill.
So a lot has happened in those 8 years when this all began, when the ASD cranked up, and Fraser was the epicenter of where the Achievement
Ground
School
zero.
District. Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Where do you think your school and other schools in the Achievement School District are heading at this point? Because a lot of that's up in the air.
So I think, holistically, the ASD was an intervention for schools that were struggling throughout the state. I think Chris Barbick and his team, their thought process around and their strategy around how to fix that was through chartering the schools. I think that the charter movement is a tool, a part of the solution. But I don't think that is the only solution. I think that one of the things that was learned from this process is turnaround and traditional charters are markedly different. The resources needed, the supports needed, the bandwidth for the LEA and to support what is going on in those schools, it's just different.
LEA.
Local education agency.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the bandwidth that the ASD lacked was challenging for the schools that we served. Let's be clear. We serve the same student population, no different. It is the same student population that were there prior to them becoming our charters. And that is just a challenge. Shelby County has placed these schools in the I-zone, right? These are the same type of schools, and it is definitely a challenge. And so to close out your question, I think that where the ASD is headed is understanding those challenges, moving to a path of being more of an intervention model, to where they are utilizing the local districts, the LEAs, whether it be Chattanooga, Nashville, Memphis, and partnering with them to support the schools that are struggling, as opposed to it being this all-out sell on just chartering those schools in those neighborhoods.
All right. Michael, the county commission has been talking a lot about a proposal by Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris for some kind of Fraser High School, a discussion that we normally hear from the Shelby County Schools Board. where do you think the commission is at? Is that something that should come from county government as opposed to the county school system?
Well, it needs to be a collaboration of both. We're embarking along with the school system on what they've called the Reimagining 901 plan of really how do we look at school facilities over the next decade and more. As I think most people are aware, our school infrastructure is in bad shape, and we've got to do something about it at some point, and we can't keep sort of patching up leaky roofs because that costs money too. And so one of the pushes that I've had, in my year and a half on the commission is we've got to have a long-term plan of how we invest in infrastructure so that we're getting away from spending this money on very old buildings that are under-enrolled, and invest in better facilities that have higher that are better enrolled. And I think the school in Fraser would be a component of that. It wouldn't just be in and of itself. That needs to be part of this larger plan to be able to show where is the need, and how do we make sure that we're investing across the county. How do we make sure we're investing where there are students, but also through a lens of equity to make sure that we're not leaving students in areas where there's been a population loss without a quality school to go to.
Bobby, if by your wishes the Achievement School District and Shelby County Schools move closer together, start collaborating more, not that they're not collaborating now, but start collaborating more, do you think there is a transition that's possible if there's a new Fraser High School for the institution that you founded there?
Absolutely. I think that these are conversations that we've been having for a number of years. The sweet spot for Fraser would be a comprehensive high school that encompasses both Trezevant and MLK. The course selections that we would be able to offer students, and just the pride that we could build with a large high school there, would be it would be amazing, right? I mean, I think it's a drop the mic moment for all of us, because right now, the central high schools of the world and the white stations, with a number of course selections and offerings that they can have, many of the students who are currently in the 38127, 38128 area, they end up at those schools because we don't have the offer, we don't have what they need, and what they are really wanting to take. And so as a result of a large comprehensive high school that now has 1,400 students as opposed to 600 and 600, then it just would be a great thing for all of us.
What are some examples of those course offerings?
It's multiple foreign languages, right? I mean, we have Spanish.
Yeah.
The white station has like multiple
Yeah.
foreign languages. And then the AP course selections, huge. Like we have a few AP course selections, but like you want to really, really be able to have that, that prepares kids for college and college credits and dual enrollment and all those things that financially it's virtually impossible when you have a small high school to be able to get those things done.
Yeah.
Right?
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, one of the elephants that's often always in the room is that there's this debate over whether you should be pro-charter, anti-charter, pro-ASD, anti-ASD, and so there's this kind of debate over school governance model. And what I think often gets lost in that is that every child is a human that deserves the best education, and so we ought to be making sure that we're investing for those kids, regardless of what school they choose to go to. And so when it comes to facilities, when it comes to instructional materials, funding, I mean, it ought to be, for every student gets that. It shouldn't just be, well, because you go to the ASD or because you go to a charter, we're not including you in this. Yeah. And so one thing that we pushed on the facility issue is like, how do we make an inclusive plan that looks at where kids actually are and treats every individual student equally as a human so that they get the same resources.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd love to chime in on that. Thank you so much, because like no one sees us as an ASD school. Like we're the neighborhood school. Like we are in Shelby County and we operate a school within Shelby County zone. So unless you just know, oh, they were authorized by the ASD, no one really cares about that in our community. To your point, they're all our kids, and we serve them all, right? And so when you asked about like the collaboration, I think that we've really moved past any of the adversarial type of conversations that may have been held years ago, to where we're all now really moving forward to do what's best for the students and the communities that we serve.
But is there also, and we don't have enough time, there's a minute left here, but I remember when Chris Barbick, who was the founding superintendent of ASD, and Dorsey Hobson, who was superintendent at the time, they were both on the show talking about how, look, we compete. I mean, and if that makes Chris's schools better, that's fine with me, said Dorsey Hobson, and vice versa, that some amount of competition. Is that part of what charters have done, is create some competition? And is that a good thing?
Sure, yes. Yeah. I mean, competition, I think, is generally always good.
Briefly, and we could talk for hours about this, but do you feel a sense of competition as a result of this?
It's only a
mix-up?
competition because our neighborhood schools aren't the way they need to be.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
We'll have you all back. Thanks so much for your input. We appreciate it. That is all the time we have this week. Remember, you can get past episodes of Behind the Headlines on WKNO.org. You can also download a podcast of the show on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, including you can get it on the Daily Memphian site. Thanks. See you next week.